It's good as Dr. Mario Wallace. And I am, this is the second part of a three-part series on navigating complexity, effective change management strategies for adaptive environments. Second part is it covers wide bridges, which is a theoretical framework introduced by Dr. Damon Centola of the University of Pennsylvania. In a lot of his academic research, published academic research articles, but also a book that he titled Change. But to really address it, I've included a PowerPoint. Um, a PowerPoint to actually peel back a lot of the layers within this concept called wide bridges. But before I really talk about wide bridges, I would like to recap on the first part, part one of this lecture, which was complex adaptive theory or systems. And I have to talk about that to connect you to this next step as it relates to wide bridges. So the first part, we covered what is a complex adaptive system and all the parts within an organization, how a person is a semi-autonomous agent that lives within a network system. And that network system consists of nodes, hubs, and links and bridges. A node represents a human. A hub represents a human, but one who is more of a key influencer. Links represent the connection of people within the network, a department, a organization, a division, and so forth. And bridges represent how connecting one cluster of people to another cluster of people, or one department to another department. We discussed Kotter's 8-step method of change and how it addresses more of a hierarchical concept of change. We also discussed ProSci method, how it's an extension of Kotter's method of change, and it provides more of tools to use to effectively execute on a lot of Kotter's concepts, but also concepts unique to ProSci. One other thing we discussed was that it was Kotter's method is more hierarchical, which what we considered a waterfall method, which is a slower method of communication. Information starts from the top and works its way down. Then it goes from the bottom and works its way back to the top. But if information is shared more in clusters throughout an organization, and it's not necessarily shared top down, we realize that people interact and engage with people conditionally. And that when change happens in an organization, people self-organize. With that said, let's talk more about what is wide bridges and how does it support this whole concept of network science and network mapping. So let me give you a clear definition of what is network science. So social networks refer to a specific way of representing the relationships and connections between people. Researchers can gain valuable insight into human behavior, social dynamics, and the spread of information in our interconnected world and organization through studying networks. The concept of wide bridges consists of strong ties within social networks in which people in isolated, distant groups and tightly knit groups can collaborate, discuss information, and debate with the intent to foster new behavior. So the concept of wide bridges is to either effectively communicate information to organization that people get it, understand it, or to effectively change human behavior based on how information is shared. So what does that mean? Let's talk about two ways information is shared in an organization, effectively shared within an organization, starting with this whole concept of wide bridges. So we're going to talk about how information is shared and how people need to be connected with overlapping connections within an organization to effectively drive information, what we call wide bridges. So let's talk. So two ways of sharing information. One is fireworks pattern and one is the fishing net pattern. As you can see from the fireworks pattern, it looks like information that's going out like a burst. If you think of on the 4th of July, holding a Roman candle and just lighting it and allowing it to burst, and it goes as far as it can into the sky and it separates and it fizzles out or diffuses, right? They're all separate lights within the sky. So this is what happens in a fireworks pattern. You see the dots are considered nodes or people, and information seems to be coming from the center of this particular diagram. The lines are the connectors that connect the information from the person who's communicating the information out to the people. But what you can see at the end are the people are not connected. There are no links or line that's connecting the people around the periphery of this particular model. So information is communicated outward to individuals who are not in a part of social groups. So the information is this method of communication can be used for a lot of different things, such as if you're trying to create a campaign to get patients involved in some type of clinical program, a clinical trial, or you're trying to brand a new concept within the organization, or you're trying to communicate information that came, for instance, like an annual report from the CEO or the president or chancellor of organization, and it's not with the intent to use that information to change human behavior, It's just to share and communicate information so people can be aware of what's taking place in the organization. This particular method is not truly effective for change because change seeks to change human behavior based on the new initiative. We need people to do things differently, use new technology to effectively increase on the ROI expected from the organization. So now we go to the fishing net pattern. If you look at this particular pattern, it looks like a fishing net. It looks like a net. Everything is connected all the way through into this particular square. But if you look at this, if information goes in, it's hard for information to leave out. And the whole thing of the fishing net pattern, the concept of the fishing net pattern is redundancy of information. As information goes into either side, left or right, or in the middle, the information is shared with one person who shared that same information with another person who shared that same information with a third and a fourth and a fifth person. So the information consistently recycles itself throughout this particular fishing net with the intent to change human behavior, right? So basically, if I'm a change practitioner in an organization, I am trying to build teams that are connected within a fishing net pattern to effectively communicate information with the intent to change behavior. I am not communicating information out or sharing information in a fireworks pattern where people are not connected at the ends, which only seeks reach of information and doesn't seek to change with the ideal of changing human behavior. But the fishing net does. But what does that look like? As it relates to wide bridges, Dr. Damon Centola talks about two bridges. He talks about narrow bridges with weak ties and wide bridges with strong ties. As we look at the narrow bridge, if you look at the red dots and the hubs within the red dots, I discussed hubs in the previous part one, is the center, the influencer of that particular social network. These gray circles are just the periphery of that particular social network. So you see here, there's 4 different social networks of different people. But what you see uniquely here is that the undergird of this particular one, the operational system for information shared, is more of a fireworks pattern. Information comes from a source, is communicated out. The people who receive the information are not connected in any way other than within the social network, but there are no true connections. So the information is helps to inform them of something. It's not designed to change human behavior. You have clusters, bridges, and hubs, as we discussed in the presentation. But when we think of wide bridges and strong ties, you see that there are overlapping connections within the model. The bridges, there are a lot of different bridges that connect people. And you can see most of the dots are red, meaning there is a connection from one person to the next or multiple people, which allows for the redundancy of information that's being shared. The undergird of operation of this particular concept called wide bridges is the fishing net pattern of information sharing. This pattern or this concept is designed to increase the opportunity to change human behavior as information is being shared. So if change happens in an organization and the goal is to change human behavior, the most effective way is to build a fishing net pattern of communication, map out the social network to understand the key influencer, the nodes, the links, and the bridges within the organization. Once you understand that, build it in a fishing net pattern. Make sure that you intentionally connect people who would have not connected themselves, so that you can create a more redundancy of information that organically begins to happen within an organization to change human behavior. So you have wide bridges consist of all of those additional things that you intentionally connect within an organization to foster information sharing that is redundant to change human behavior.